Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week, I'm talking about a casual card game called Getsome. This game's going to be a little bit tricky to talk about because it is a mature content game for immature people. Or is that an immature game for mature people? I don't. Either way, the game has an objective of getting 10 bed notches. And I'm not going to post any card pictures because while they could be okay through YouTube, I'm not going to risk it just because I've heard of people who've actually spoken about ads that show up on YouTube showing footage of the ads getting community guidelines strikes. And many of the cards, while they are cartoonish, look like stuff that you might see in some of the more risque ads on YouTube. So I'm going to just play it safe because YouTube can change their community guidelines at any time and nail you for stuff that was acceptable when you posted it. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy as I try and tiptoe through the minefield that is Getsome. As I mentioned, Getsome is a adult-themed game. Your goal is to get 10 bed notches before you get 5 babies. And yeah, that's the short of the goals. You win by succeeding in getting 10 bed notches. If you lose, you're not kicked out of the game. You reset to the beginning. You know, discard your hand, clean out your crib and your bedpost or your scorecard, and start again. Note that, yes, this means that if you've lost, you're behind, but it's still possible to win after losing. Because why not? But every player has a crib where they store their babies, and a scorecard where they keep track of their bed notches. Understand, babies are transferable through certain cards. There are some cards that let you transfer a baby to another player. There are some that let you get rid of a baby, putting them up for foster care. And then there are some that let a player give you a baby outright. But we'll get into specific card discussion in a bit. The gameplay is set up to go clockwise. One player is the banker. He or she keeps all the bed notch tokens, all the baby tokens, and all the status effect tokens. And whenever a player gets one of these, the banker gives the appropriate token to a player. After you have set up the field, dealt out the cards, your starting hand of 7 cards each, you have to determine who goes first. And this is going to be an exact quote from the rulebook. The player who has had intercourse with the most people goes first, and then play continues to the left. If this is the second game of the night, the person who most recently won goes first. You're welcome. Yeah. That is in the rules. And it's a fairly standard turn. You draw. You draw cards until you have 7 in your hand. Even if you had something that caused you to lose a turn, you still draw up to 7. You still draw up to your 7 cards. Then you get to play cards or exchange. Play cards, you can begin a Getsome encounter with a Getsome card. Begin a Pregos encounter with a Pregos card. Begin a status effect encounter with a status effect card. Block or modify an ongoing Getsome or Pregos encounter. Remove a status effect with an appropriate card. Play a Wingman card and choose one outcome. Alternately, instead of doing any of those, instead of playing any cards, you can exchange up to 7 cards, and that's your turn. And then, when you have nothing more to do, or nothing more that you want to do, you end the turn by saying, "I am spent." And the player to the left of you starts your turn. When it's not your turn, you can block or modify an ongoing Getsome or Pregos encounter with an appropriate card. Start a Pregos encounter after a player has started a Getsome encounter. Block status effect cards. And use a Wingman card to gain legendary. There is only one legendary in the status effect in the game. And it's pretty much, the requirements are the same from all the Wingman cards. You have to negate the Ugly Friend card to gain legendary. The Ugly Friend card is a block Getsome encounter. That's all it does. But if you use a Wingman card while that's in play, and use the Wingman card to negate the Ugly Friend, you gain legendary. And basically what you do is, this is like pretty much any card game. So, we'll say I use the vanilla Getsome card to start a Getsome encounter. Well, another player might drop Ugly Friend to block that encounter. Well, then, I would drop if I had it, I would drop Wingman to negate Ugly Friend. And then I would completely get, in theory, if no one else has anything else to play, I've now gotten a bed notch. That's the most straightforward type of encounter. However, there are some interesting cards, like Immaculate Conception. Immediately give a person an unblockable baby. This card ignores the birth control status effect. Of course, V card. Modify a Getsome encounter for +1 bed notch and a clingy X. Yeah, those are some of the more interesting cards. But let's talk about some of the status effects. The status effects are as follows. Lose a turn. Your next turn, all you can do is draw your cards. Clingy X. Can only engage in vanilla Getsome encounters. You may only earn a bed notch from a monogamous Getsome encounter with your Clingy X. There are cards that will get rid of a Clingy X. But they're fairly straightforward. Things like Restraining Order. High Five Time. If you have High Five Time in play, for every bed notch earned, gain an additional High Five Time. High Five Time automatically acts as a one-time shield against blocks and status effects. Fertile. If you become pregos, you have a 50% chance of twins and a 50% chance of triplets. Remove after getting pregos. STD. For each person you are trying to get some from, you have an immediate 50% chance of not earning a bed notch, effectively blocking their partner. Give an additional STD for any other player to any other player in successfully resolved Getsome encounters with you. Birth Control. You cannot get pregos. Also remove Fertile. Discard at the end of your next turn. And of course, there is the ultimate status effect. Legendary. Allows you, at your discretion, to add the phrase, "and it was legendary," to the end of any encounters you are involved with. Legendary is worth 1 bed notch while in your possession. Yeah. But of course, there's a wide variety of different cards. Some of the more notable ones, of course, are the ones that give status effects, like Fertility. During your turn, make a player of your choice fertile. If it's not your turn, modify a Getsome encounter to make a player fertile. Knocked Up. After a player earns a bed notch, give them an unblockable baby. And basically there's a card with its name to give each of these status effects. And there are a few cards that will remove status effects. Like STD Medicine. Give a player an STD after they earn a bed notch. Or plan yourself to remove an STD, block a pregnancy, or remove fertile. Kinky Night. Start or modify a Getsome encounter for +1 bed notch and lose a turn. then they went off to a nice family who loved them. Remove one pregnancy from your crib. Yeah. That's literally it. It's just get rid of one of your babies. And now I'm going to talk about 3 of the more interesting, fun cards, I should say. Just because of the sort of implications of them. I went to see the nurse. You get your choice. Start a Getsome encounter, gain birth control, or remove one status effect. Well, I'm in this long-distance relationship. Start a future Getsome encounter. For every turn you wait to get some, increase the value +1 bed notch. You can cheat, but they will become a clingy X immediately if you do so. And try something different. Yes, this card. I wish I could show the art for this. Basically, it has a woman leaning face down, back up. It's only showing her from the mid-waist up, gripping the sheets. Start or modify a Getsome encounter for a +1 bed notch. You cannot get pregos from this encounter. Yeah. This is the game. And boy, it's a fun game, and honestly, for the themes and content of it, it's actually surprisingly positive. Let's just put it like this. There are things that they could have put in that I can't say on YouTube, that they chose not to. I am very glad that they did that. They kept it, for the most part, they pretty much did keep it a 100% consensual game. The themes are tricky, and it's a bit of a minefield. But I think it's that they did it as well as they could for what it's a game about. And that's where I'm going to end this discussion. Next week, I'm going to start discussing the brand new Dune RPG from Modiphius. Let's jump back into a more traditional discussing of RPGs. I still have some games I'm planning to talk about, and I'm still trying to start building that buffer that I wanted, but real life has been a pain. So next week, I'm going to start talking about Dune. So until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.